Are you a matriarch who has a powerful family story that you'd like to share on the pages of a book, but you don't know how to do it or how to start? Well, our guest today specializes in helping women just like you. She helps matriarchs write memoirs. Welcome to the Goddess Power Show. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I interview trailblazing women who help us all boss up to live bigger, better, and bolder. With us today is an amazing woman, Angela Patrick Wynn. Her company is called Angel Write LLC. She is a best-selling author of fiction, nonfiction, inspiration, instruction, and now she's channeling her amazing talent into her passion to help matriarchs write memoirs. So if that's you, listen up. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. So excited to
I
talk
know.
about
I'm
my
so
program.
Woohoo! I'm so excited that you're here because you and I met as young authors in the 90s with our books at book signings. We were all over everywhere. We were having a ball. Can you talk about how your writing career began, Angela? Because we had our posters and we had, bookmarks and book signings. It was so fun. Can you talk about that?
Yes, 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 yes. I remember that. And so honestly, my writing career started because number one, I read a book and said, I can write better than that. And this
Uh-huh.
book is on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, I started honestly being a groupie at every book signing. I would get the book signed by the author. I would tell them I would write, was going to be a writer, and they would say, yes, do it, carry on. So I
Uh-huh.
have like photo albums with all of the folks who were writing and are still popular today. So I
Uh-huh.
treasure that. And I started joining groups like the one where I met you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to be in the company of the people that are doing what you want to do.
Right, right.
So the biggest thing I remember is as I planned to write a book, I had no idea I'd get an agent and HarperCollins would want to publish my story. And the funniest thing about it was I did all of that and didn't think about the fact that people were going to ask for my autograph. I don't know how that went over my head. Okay.
Funny.
I'm like, people now want me to sign a book. All
I
right, let's
love it.
do it. And just
Oh.
from there, just the love of reading and writing has just always stayed with me. I continued to work in my career, not really realizing that on the side, I was continuing to teach people how to write. I was starting to instruct them. I was giving writing workshops. And I think that was because I had such a good understanding of how to write instruction because I had a degree in education. So it kind of meshed together.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow, look at that. That's amazing. I love that serendipity. That's beautiful. Like you were being prepared for a mission you didn't even know you were going to be doing.
Yes.
Beautiful. Wow, Angela. Okay, so then how did that evolve into you starting your company and being a coach?
So I started the company because I had books and I had book sales, but I was working, you know, how you have to have, I don't know, a 1099 or something. I just wanted to make sure I credited myself for whatever that income was. But once again, I really didn't take it seriously. If people wanted to learn about writing, I would wait till it was about 10 or 15 people and then I'd host a workshop. Or I just come over your house and help you put things together. I was just the ear. I wasn't thinking of myself as a professional coach or anything. But
Uh-huh.
eventually, what do people start saying to you? You know, that could be a business. And I'm like, when I thought about it being a business, at first I was saying, I just want to be an instructor. I just want to give you
Mm.
some instructions and hopefully you can follow them and you'll be okay. But I do realize that when I would go to workshops, sometimes you get instructions and you can't write down the whole sentence. And when you get home, you're like, what was that? So I
Oh.
started feeling bad that I could add a little bit more if I decided to become a coach.
Oh,
But I
I love
waited
it.
until I retired so that I could do it full time.
Oh, beautiful. And you had a good job in corporate America, right?
Yes, I sure did.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you love something, I always found time to teach. I started a course called Fantastic Fiction. I
Uh-huh.
did brochures, I had workshops at hotels. And once again, I didn't think highly of it. It was just, as so many people asked me, I would say, as soon as I get enough people, I'll have another workshop. Not realizing that that could have been what I did till someone
Mm.
advised me, girl, package that, become who
Uh,
you are.
wow, that's beautiful. And so, who are you today? I see your amazing social media campaign that's so fun and
Oh,
so
thank
inspiring
you.
on Instagram,
Thank you.
especially. Yeah, so you're getting your message out there. And who are you now as this coach for matriarchs writing memoirs?
Exactly. So, of course, as you age, then you're like, uh-oh. And once I retired, I'm like, okay, then I'm looking for the baby boomers. I'm looking for the retirees. I'm looking for the matriarchs because it's relatable to me. And I
Hmm.
always judge people by the artists they know. I'm like, do you know who Smokey Robinson is? And if you don't, I'm like, you're not the one, as I come into meetings with young people, but I'll say, but tell your mom or your grandma, reach out. Okay.
That's
If
so
I
cute.
can't say, Quiet Storm and you don't know what that is, gee.
Ah,
So I like matriarchs because who's going to help us? We're not as social media savvy, we're not as tech savvy, but Elizabeth, we have got the stories, the trailblazing. I mean, so many people that I work with, I'm like, this is going to be a movie, right? You know,
wow.
I meet people and I'm like, you used to work with Elvis Presley, sing in the background. Are you
What?
kidding me? I mean, I hear
Wow.
things like that. I hear people say their grandparents were related to Bonnie and Clyde. I'm like, you have to write this. And so I'm able to bring them along because we are relatable and they trust me.
Oh, that's awesome, Angela. So, how do you do people identify themselves as matriarchs writing memoirs? Because I'd never heard that connection until you mentioned it once in a workshop. So, how do you reach
Um,
people on on
I
that
think what
level?
happens is I honestly at first did not have a big desire for memoir. I'm all about fiction. And of course, a memoir can be fiction. But in order to help them grasp the fact that they could write this story, I said, let the story be about you. How about that? As
Uh-huh.
opposed to just a character. What
Uh-huh.
is it that you want to tell your family? And I always share the story of my mom passing away so young, phenomenal woman, but I didn't know a lot about her. And I ended up finding a shoebox and it looked like this was the picture she wanted to be used. This is what she wanted in her obituary. And I was like, we're going to write a book instead of obituary. Stop leaving things for people to find and get it wrong when you can step up right now and write your story and have a chance to
Wow.
read it to your family.
Wow. Wow, Angela. So listen, do you tell people that the pandemic absolutely was the exclamation point on that? Because 600,000 plus people are no longer here to tell their stories themselves. And I always
Exactly.
say, even if you don't publish it, write it for your family. Do you tell
So
people
many
that?
of them have papers from years and years. They'll be like, for 20 years, I wanted to write this. I'm like, you do know you're running out of time. We never know when or where, but we do know aging is part of the process chronologically.
Hmm.
So stop it and let's go. Let's stop the
Yes.
clock. Let's get the story written once
Yes.
again so you can read it to your family. And plus, your family is going to be so excited to realize that you're finally writing a book after talking about it for 20 plus years.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow.
So that
So
part has blessed me so much.
I love it. It's so exciting when you see that spark in people's eyes when they're like, "Oh, I can do this."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, Angela, if someone comes to you, they've never written a book before, they're very insecure about their writing skills, how do you convince them that you're the person to help?
Well, the first thing I do is I offer like free weekly training, and that is usually on your story idea, where you can come and at this workshop before we're done, you'll have two sentences that actually are your whole story. And of course, they can't believe that. And I'm like, yes, we flesh it out from there. That's what
Uh-huh.
writers do. They
Uh-huh.
have an idea and
Uh-huh.
they flesh it out from there. So usually once they've done that workshop, and it build a little bit of confidence, I'll have them schedule a strategy session where we really can go over the components and the game
Mhm.
plan of how long it's going to take us to get this book done.
And how long does it usually take people?
It is taking much longer than what I thought it would.
Like years?
I know. I tell people that writing, you have a lot of characters in your head, but it is a lonely art unless you sit down and get it done. It's so easy to put it off and always say you're going to get back to it. And
Mhm.
so we do personal self-development. And I mean, the modules in my course are, of course, things like character and characterization, scene and sequel, one that we're both familiar with. That's right. Because I
Jack
have to show
Bickham.
them, yeah, your action and your thoughts. And they really get into it. And my coaching is for the group. And so everybody's on the Zoom at one time. And so they are inspiring each other. They have notes for each other. They can't wait till the next time we get together. They'll bring back research for each other. And oftentimes they have a lot in common just by the
Mm.
time, the years that we were born. Once again, very relatable. So it
Mhm.
is really good. It has a lot of synergy. And I do know that I am going to be putting together like an anthology. I do want to bring along the women who think writing a whole book is too much. I'm going to say, well, maybe you can write a story. You are a wise
Yes.
woman who writes.
Yes.
What
Yes,
message do
yes.
you want to leave for future generations? And then I'm going to also start taking these women on writing retreats. I just got back from Jamaica,
Oh,
Elizabeth.
it's
So I don't
beautiful.
know, maybe I'll take a group of women to Jamaica and we'll write while we're there. I think that would be
Oh,
exciting to have a trip that we do annually.
that's amazing. That's wonderful, Angela. So, can you talk about the instruction that you give them? Do you give them like a way to outline the book and to create characters or to embellish real life people that they know? How do you help them put words around all these ideas?
So for the people that I work with writing the memoirs, they are either going to do as fiction or nonfiction. So as
Mhm.
fiction, I kind of use like the Terry McMillan approach. Okay, how Stella got her groove back. I tell them, I mean, that's fiction, but when we really look at her life, honestly, fiction allows you to embellish and a lot of times they have things they want to write, but I'm like, you really don't remember that. I don't want you to get in trouble. You're going to have some historians that are going to fact check if you say that it happened exactly in 1960, but it was really 61. So, unless you are coming with your full memories, then let's just try to do it as fiction and embellish it a little bit. Same truth, but you won't get in trouble. Then I have the folk, they come with their newspaper clippings. They literally have been saving their things that are dated and time stamped. And I say, now you can literally do the chronological memoir and decide what the theme will be, because it may not be that we're going to write about your whole life. Gone is that premise. It used to be people thought it was from beginning to end. I'm like, there are going to be people that are going to write many memoirs over the course of the time. And we see so now so many young people, if there's a theme they want to get across, a memory in their life they want to share, they write that one. And then a couple of years later, they'll write another one. So it's been good to have them realize it does not have to be from the time you were born till now. You could pick out
Mm.
a great time in your life, maybe when you were younger and were married, and it could be a romance. And
Uh-huh.
I challenge them with all kind of things. I have people that want to write science fiction,
Oh,
thrillers. I
wow.
know. I talked to a couple that was married for 50 years and they wanted to write a romance. I said, all right now,
I
we
love
can do
it.
that. I know, right?
That's awesome.
So,
That's
yeah.
great. Now, what about publishing? Do you guide them toward agents or self-publishing, or how do you handle that
So
aspect?
I handle the publishing, but I do handle it so that they own their works and
Hmm.
they are in control of when they'll print books and that kind of thing. I'm like, I want you to own it. I don't want you to come back to me and say, I'm ready to order my own books. I want your ISBN to be associated with your book and your name, even though I'm going to publish the first work for you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how we're handling that. I have my first client, we're about to go through that phase. So it's going to be
Okay.
very exciting. I'm learning a lot about that as well. I
Mm-hmm.
did, of course, get published with HarperCollins at first. And then
Uh-huh.
I did self-publish a work,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very easy. I handed off many things to someone who did the formatting and put all those things in place. And now that's going to be me. So I am looking forward to establishing a team. Once I go through it for someone else for the first time, it is on. I'll be cranking them out.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Are you publishing on Amazon or some other publishing platform?
Well, it depends. I'm usually take the route of them publishing and having the capture page so that all sales come directly to them and they can sign these books before they get sent out. You know, I do love
Oh,
Amazon, but with Amazon, people are going to get your book and you're not going to have a chance to put a personal note in it. But
right.
when I teach them about the capture page, people can pre-order your book and you can, when you get it, sign it before you mail it out. That's
What's
a
a
big,
capture
big deal.
page? Okay,
So a
I'm
capture
sorry.
page is where you set up something so that the person can fill out the information. It probably is like your book cover. And if you
Uh-huh.
want to order, it says click here. And when you
Uh,
click here, they
uh-huh.
put in their name, their address, and their email, and they're able to pay for the book right then. It goes into your account. You see who's ordered the book. You take one out of your box, you autograph it for them, and you can mail it. And it
Wow.
also creates a mailing list for you. So whenever you want to say something, it goes out to your entire email list. It's
Wow,
phenomenal.
that's really
Yes.
smart. I love it. You've created a whole system here that's helping people get their
Yes.
inspiring stories out there. And I always say everybody should write their story because you know what, Angela? Not only does it share the story with others, but it is an excellent exercise in self-reflection.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I look to them, I'm like, I'm setting you up to be a coach for your other family members
Uh-huh.
because why should you be the only family member that has a book on the shelf? Wouldn't you like to see your siblings do the
Uh-huh.
same thing? So you
Uh-huh.
don't know it, but I'm getting you ready to now say it's your turn and be
Mm-hmm.
an advocate for more people in your family to get these books on the shelves. So when you go to
Mm-hmm.
family reunions, gosh, everybody's got a book, everybody's got a story.
Oh,
Yeah.
why do you think that's so important?
I think it's so important because we tell a lot of stories, but after a while we get them wrong. Or after a while, they're not exactly the story we would tell. And I remember I had an uncle who every Thanksgiving we'd sit around the table and he would say, Angela, this is your story. You were born in a car in the back seat on the. I'm like, please don't tell that story anymore. But
Is that true?
but he was the storyteller. And it was enjoyable to get your dessert, sit down and listen to see how that story was going to be told. And
Oh
I
my,
thought hard about that once he passed away. I'm like, uh-oh, who's going to keep this storytelling up? Who knows it from his generation exactly as it happened?
mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like having someone tell your story wrong or
Oh,
incorrectly or with the,
see?
that's not the focus you would have made. So I'm like,
Right.
let's tell our own stories and get them
Yes.
published. They will last forever.
Oh, I love that. When I was ghostwriting books for people, I interviewed for one person, a very prominent, accomplished executive. I interviewed his brother, who was the family oral historian, and he told me so much. And he died a short time later. So all the history of the family that only he knew got recorded in the book. It's
See?
it's profound. But I
Yes,
think people think we're going to live forever, so they have all the time in the world. Not so.
that's so.
There
Be
is an
working on it.
urgency.
Be
Mhm.
working on it. Okay, if that's not going to be it, be working on it. Have it
Mm.
in queue as
In
opposed
queue.
to nothing done. So
Uh-huh,
yes,
uh-huh. So,
yes, yes,
Angela,
yes.
do you help people with time? Because, it's so easy to blow off writing because it's work. You have to sit down, shut out the noise, focus, and use your brain. How do you help people with the time?
So I definitely do a game plan. I want people to be able to get their work done in like 90 days, which is really fast. And especially
Mm-hmm.
for some of the matriarchs who they want to write a story, but they've never written. And I had to take that in consideration that the biggest heartstring for them is leaving this legacy. But that doesn't mean that they are a writer. And
Uh-huh.
so I do set it up where we have actual one-on-one sessions as they complete portions of the book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this keeps them on track and it keeps us with a nice timeline. And like I said, I've had to soften that a little bit as I find out, just exactly where you are in the writing space. But I still want to keep a sense of urgency. I don't want it to be that you just finish it whenever. And I
Mm.
usually tell them, plan your book launch around something that you enjoy. Is it
Mm.
going to be something that you will launch around Mother's Day or your birthday or a holiday or family reunion? And that usually excites them. And we'll look at that date and then work back from there.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So, what does it feel like to you? You've had all these different dimensions of writing in your life. So, what does it feel like to you to see that fire, that spark in people's eyes, like, I can do this?
I realize that some people don't start right away, but they do come back around. So of course, like most people in business, I do have like an automated email system that is always prompting them. And sometimes people be like, gosh, I got your emails for 6 months before I contacted you. And I'm like,
Wow.
well, today's the day.
Oh,
So I
nice.
realize that it's not always right away. I
Uh-huh.
realize that sometimes we have to watch for a little while. I realize that sometimes matriarchs sometimes feel that things can be a scam. So when they see me on the Zoom, I'm like, yes, I am a real person. They're
Uh-huh.
like, what? And you look like me. I'm like, who knew? I look like you. I sound
Oh.
like you. Just those
Oh.
things that bring the confidence for them to commit.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'll say, go and get your daughter or your son if they have a question. So I can wave at them and say, yes, what is it? You do know your mom wants to write this book. How can you be
Oh.
helpful? And then they're like,
Wow.
that's it, mom. Because
Oh.
sometimes they will make it a gift. And you
Uh-huh.
should make that a gift if you want your parent to leave a legacy item and
Uh-huh.
you've been giving them flowers and robes. No, give them the gift of writing because it's going to bless you. So
Oh,
that works
that's
too.
that's amazing. Angela, where can people learn more about the services that you offer?
So they can go directly to my website, which is angelwritellc.com. So
Mm-hmm.
ANGELWRITELLC.com.
Mm-hmm.
On that website, I have a blog, I have books available. You are the character.
Oh, I love it.
Write your story before you're out of time. And then there's
Oh.
also a video they can watch that tells them why I started this business and why writing your story is a secret weapon. And at the end of that video, it gives them an opportunity to book a strategy session with me.
Oh, that's wonderful. This is so exciting. And it's like a second career for you
Yes,
because
it
you
is.
retired and you moved to South Carolina from Detroit, where we met.
Yes,
And that's wonderful. You're in a warmer climate now.
yes. That was what got me when I got to South Carolina and I saw that they put up misting machines because they didn't have snow. I was like, are you kidding me? And you can wear a hoodie in January. It's only about 60 degrees. Yeah, no.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh. I
and
love it.
I moved for just to serve the community.
Mm-hmm.
I took one suitcase with me, Elizabeth, and moved to South Carolina. Yeah.
What? What
Yes.
city are you in?
I am in Columbia.
Okay.
Mhm.
What, you took one suitcase?
I took one suitcase. I joined a program to move the word, and they said, sell all your belongings or store them and commit to 6 months in a place that will send you. They sent me to South Carolina with about 11 other people, and I ended up staying. I've been here now for 6 years.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yes.
Wow, Angela. So here's another question I have for you. You are helping people, but writers have this call in our soul to do our own writing. How's that going?
Now that is a challenge because before deciding to be a coach, I was going to just do keynote and instruction because I do want to write my own fiction as well. So whenever I'm talking to them, I'm like, oh, I ink out the time to follow my same advice. And I do have my next book plotted out. I do have, my synopsis, but I have to work, 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 just like everyone else to get in there and get my book done along with helping others, just like you.
Mhm. I know, I know, I know, but it's like we must. We can't not do it. It's
I
like there's
know.
always this sort of undercurrent of angst if we're not getting it done.
Yes,
And we know we have responsibilities, but writers just have this, it's deep, deep, deep in our core where we must write
we
daily.
have to. We
Do
have
you
to.
journal?
I started journaling. It's not as great as I want because I start mixing my to-do list with the journaling. Like, okay, wait a minute. I'll think of something along the memory, like, it'll say do this. And I'm like, okay, that really should not be there. But
Oh.
I do a couple things that you suggested. I mean, I have like a notebook in every room or notebooks with certain things, titles all over. That works
Uh-huh.
pretty good. And I
Uh-huh.
also, like I said, I just need to finalize my own timeline and stick to it and get just a
Mhm.
few pages out
Mhm.
a day or week. And I am going to also reprint my first book, Everything She Wants.
Oh,
I
that's
am going to do a reprint. I
wonderful.
am so excited. I have it back. I'm just going through the actual formatting, and then I am going to send it back out with a new cover, and
Wow.
I am going to do a sequel to that book. Now, the thing that
Wow.
is really, really hard, Elizabeth, is how do you take a book that you've written so long ago that really maybe only 3 years have passed in the time of the book, but we are living currently? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to be so careful with what I say. They probably still don't have iPhones, if it's really taking place
Oh.
3 years from the actual storyline in the first book. But I like that challenge. It's going to be interesting. But I'm like, so now I'll have to literally tell people 1990s or post COVID, the things that we have to start saying now. We have people live so freely, not wearing masks, not thinking about that because our society has changed forever now.
Mhm. There are many, many, many books that were written in the 1800s, 1900s that, people know that there were no cell phones or microwave ovens or,
Yes.
um, air conditioning for that matter. So you just, like you said, put something at the top that this book was first
I was
published in the 90s.
Yeah, I
Or
was reading it. Uh-oh, we're about to wrap up. I was reading it and it said she pressed the voicemail to listen from the answer machine. I was like, ooh,
so one thing you
ooh,
could do is just go through it and update it. I mean, it would significantly change storylines if there were cell phones and texting involved, because that
I know. That's
changed
a whole
communication.
different, whole different thing. So
Yeah, it is. But
it's a challenge, but I like it.
yeah, yeah. And as writers, we can do that. So,
Yes, we can.
Angela, what other tips would you like to offer people to inspire those matriarchs out there who know they have a story, they know they need to record it and share it with the world forever? What would you say to them right now?
I would say don't overthink it. Get a spiral notebook and start writing from the heart. A lot of times they feel like they must write from page one to the end. Write out of order. If it's causing you to cry, cry. If it's causing you to be angry, but get it out. Soon as you can get it out, then we can mold it and shape it into what you want it to be. So I
Mm,
really, really tell them, write it down no matter what. They may say, oh,
mm,
I can't spell. It doesn't matter. We can always change spelling, but we can't fix it if we don't have anything to work with. So for
wow.
all the matriarchs out there, get you a spiral notebook and start writing, even if it's not on the computer. Get some index cards so that when you're somewhere and you have a thought, just take it out and write your notes on there. And when you get home, put it in your spiral notebook. Start
Mm,
collecting those things that you want to do. Start even putting down maybe bullet points of the actual things that you want to write about. It's a
mm-hmm.
start.
I love it. That's wonderful. Angela Patrick Wynn, I am so grateful that you joined me here today on the Goddess Power Show. What you're doing is amazing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. And I will put the link to your website in the description box. So anybody, all those matriarchs out there
That's
who
right.
realize you need to write your book, you know who to
Yes.
call.
Yes. Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
You're welcome. And thank you, all of you, for joining us here on the Goddess Power Show, where you got to meet Angela Patrick Wynn, the best selling author turned book coach who's helping matriarchs write their memoirs. Please do click the link below to visit her website. Please give us a thumbs up to like the video. Please also subscribe to the channel and hop over to twosisterswriting.com and pick up your copy of my new book, The BISS TRIBE, Activating Your Goddess Power, which is my book that inspired this show. So I hope that you all got value out of this program. Please do drop a comment. We'd love to hear any questions or comments about the content here that's very inspiring. And I hope you're taking lots of action. So remember, boss up, goddess. You have the power. I'll see you next time.